Oh, hello. Yeah, well, Ray, it's Friday. Yeah, where did that week go? It must have gone behind me. Yeah, yeah, that's the weird thing about time. It can be a place, can't it? Time and place. Yes, you need the two of them together. Otherwise, you never know where you are, except it's Friday. Unless, of course, you're not seeing this on Friday, in which case it definitely isn't. I don't know. Tricky, isn't it? It's a bit like them pronouns. Who knows where they're going to go next? Anyway, today's a tale of good, bad, and indifferent, or indeed at least ugly. Yesterday, I'd completely forgotten because I wasn't teaching A levels this year. Was A level results day. So we had the usual spectacle of jubilantly and crying students opening A-level results whilst their teachers sort of stood around looking a bit useless for the sake of the cameras. Yeah, it's kind of quite interesting to watch the Michaela School lots because inevitably there were cameras there at Miss Sniffy's and Snuffy's school, Catherine Basingla school, and the thing that struck me most about that was the difference in ethnicity between the teachers that were there and their students. Not anything against the teachers, you understand. It's just schools like the Michaela can always take the pick of people that do teach first, which is one of those schemes whereby posh public school kids go and teach for a little bit, so they get to see if they really want to do it. Most of them don't, oddly enough. But I've worked for some institutions like that. There's very, very much a class split between people like me and the public school kids. Might come back to that as a concept. Anyway, we had a lot of the usual rubbish that was out there. It was I was pleased that Jeremy Clarkson got in early with his, not getting A levels didn't do me any harm statement, and of course it didn't, because Jeremy Clarkson come from a very privileged background, went to public school. His old public school basically charges £40,000 a year for you to go there. It's the reason why he lives next door to David Cameron, another man who was, just a self-made, isn't he? Yes, I mean, his mum got him his first job because, she knew the Dowager Princess, or wherever it was, lady something or other, that was in charge of procurement of PR jobs at Sky BSB. So his first job was 100k doing PR. Still, I imagine the competition was quite tough. Aside from the Clarkson inevitability, we had the usual tales from the right-wing press that can't stand the idea of young people doing well. It's always basically wrong. So I thought this lot was quite good from the Telegraph. These are the stories around the A-level results that they were running yesterday. Crackdown on A-level grade inflation fails as top results hit record high. Yeah. You see, we can't have too many kids doing well. We can't have teachers learning to get kids through the exams. No, we need to problematise people passing exams. Only in Britain can we be pleased that not enough people fail. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Think about it. It's very, very strange that if we get more kids getting better results, it's a failure. Yeah? How good is your child's A-level grade? Doesn't really matter, Telegraph, because the primary thing that determines how well your child does in school is the class position of their parents, I'm afraid. Basically, middle class kids do well in school and working class kids don't. Plus, ça la change, as I have often said. The best and worst degrees for earning a high salary. Yes, because it's still 1990 and you must make sure you go to the right school and get a good degree in order to get a high salary. Except that isn't the way it works anymore, which is why, indeed, so many people, basically, it might well be the last year this year that so many people go into higher education. Because, I don't know, what those, if you can get a degree and, put yourselves in 50,000 plus amount of debt, but there's a good chance when you come out, you're not going to get a degree level job. So, I don't know. These universities will let you in with C's, boo hiss, and you will earn thousands more than a Cambridge graduate, yes. Because oddly, having set up universities to act like businesses, they've acted like businesses. And what they do is, they will basically let people in to fill their courses. Of course They will. They're a business. The pretend graduate jobs propping up Britain's bloated universities. Yes, we've made Britain's universities businesses. So they will basically try and get away with not teaching any students and not doing any research and not paying their staff, all the while making sure that their vice-chancellor is on $500,000 a year. Yes. Some of them need to shut, various people are saying. Well, maybe they should. But I'm not quite sure what that's going to do to all the people that work in them and the towns that rely on graduates for, well, everything, yeah? Might well be yet another problem. Still, never mind, we'll just pretend that it's still 1990 and you can still work in an economy that's not going to screw you over. Anyway, moving on to the bad. Oh, yes, it was very bad yesterday because the BBC had the temerity to put on a Christian, yes, one of the proper ones, who labelled Robert Jenrick a xenophobe. Yes, it'd be awful, wouldn't it, labelling Robert Jenrick a xenophobe? And apparently you can't do that with Robert Jenrick. You know, the man who regularly sorts of, posts online with his film crew around him, basically pointing out that brown people aren't very good. But apparently that isn't xenophobic. Remember, we don't live in a country that's in any way, shape or form racist. You're not allowed to say that people that are racists, or indeed are using racist rhetoric, are actually racist. So that can't be done. So we had Alison Pearson here. Yeah, how typical of a member of the liberal elite. Yes, a vicar. Yeah, you can't make it up. I know. Uses BBC Today to attack Robert Jenrick for xenophobia. Yeah, typical of them, isn't it? Yeah. We're fine when the chief rabbi's on telling us about morality, but not him. No, not that level of morality. Anyway, Rob expresses the fears of millions of parents re threat to girls posed by illegal migrants. Yeah, because you see, if loads of people agree with the racism, then it's okay. It's perfectly acceptable racism. Yeah, it's fine in that case. It's a bit like Alison Pearson, yeah? Posts up some horrible, nasty, racist stuff about Pakistanis. Yeah, doesn't bother, basically, to apologise to anybody about it, and then gets cross because the coppers came round but suggesting to her that she'd posted something that was racist. She's never addressed it. Never addressed it. She's the victim. Yes. And then we have the awful Robert Jenrick wannabes, yeah? We had another government minister who decided to set himself up to show us how bad brown people are in Calais. And we also had Suella Braverman, who, braved things, if you like. Here she is in front of the people at Waterlooville because she went and talked to them. Now, I find this stuff really, really bizarre, that an immigration minister and a Home Secretary from a Conservative party that basically decided very, very deliberately to put asylum seekers in hotels in poor working class areas, deliberately figuring that it was an election ploy because that was before reform became a major threat to them on the right, and they figured that they would be able to stoke up a lot of racial division and use it. And by God, they are going to. Not that they're xenophobic, you understand. It would be wrong of me to say that. However, ... Yes. Astounding. Anyway, we'll come back to that particular notion. Yes. In terms of the bad, moving on to the bad, because whilst reform are out there doing not very pleasant things, there are at least another two major sorts of areas of political thought in this country, if you like, that are gathering a great deal of steam. And we have the people in and around, for example, Rupert Lowe. I want to highlight here Connor Tomlinson, because he and Charlie Lowe have very much been sort of cheerleading on some very, 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 very nasty things. So let's just have a look at this. This is one of his regular things that he bitches up. This is his big thing this week, is telling us about the way that Muslims run everything. Yeah, you may not have noticed that, but apparently they do. Anyway, let's have a look. In the words of the poet Rudyard Kipling, there's only so far you can push an Anglo-Saxon before he begins to learn to hate. Yes. I'm not really quite sure why that's in quotes. I don't know where he's quoted it from. I think he's quoted the wrong bit. Still, he's only got an English degree, so what can you do, eh? I was interviewed about migration, censorship, party politics and civil unrest in Britain by the American Conservative. Hooray! I bet they gave you a hard time, eh? But it's worthwhile looking at these two paragraphs which he's decided to show here, because they really do show just how out there things are and just how much these people are prepared to concoct vast racist stories out of absolute thin air. Let's have a look at this, right? The other problem with the civil service is that while having all this power, they are ideologically captured by interest groups. Yeah, because he's a mate of Liz Truss. Yeah, another person firmly attached to a form of reality. The Islamic network, specifically in the Home Office, controls not just immigration, but also counter-terror responses. Yeah, they're all in charge, aren't they? Anytime someone reads the Quran a bit too seriously and detonates a mail bomb at a pop concert, they gather together a bunch of imams and do photo ops. They control the front page of the newspapers to decrease the public's opposition to immigration, especially Islamic immigration. Yes, indeed. You see, it's all a big plot. Now, you may have noticed since 2005 that there's been this very positive media coverage of anyone who's, from the Islamic world. Yeah. Still, never mind. The bizarre thing is in the second paragraph that Connor just basically brushes that away. But what I'd like Connor to do is to name names. Who are these people in the Home Office that are running all this stuff? I think we need to know, Connor. You've got all the information, mate. I want it in the public realm. Surely as a patriot you'd want to do that, wouldn't you? Maybe not. This is no longer working. Oh, good grief. So what you just said is wrong then, is it? Alternative media has made people more aware of things, and YouGov polling from just last week saw that one half the country thinks Islam is incompatible with Britain. Upwards of 40% think all Muslim migrants have been a net detriment to the country. 9 in 10 constituencies want immigration to be lowered at the last election, and that's why they also underestimated migration by a factor of 10. They thought we were getting 70,000 a year. We have net 700,000 a year. We've got almost the same level of migration every year in a country the size of New York State as the whole of America. Legally, it's absolutely mental. Yes, it is mental because, what Connor's done there is he's forgotten about the other things that make up the country, which is Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. England is about the size of New York State, and yes, we do have a much higher population density, but we're still basically fairly empty compared to an awful lot of places. Still, that doesn't fit the argument, does it? Much indeed as that there is an argument here. I mean, this is Connor, Mr. I believe in God and the Pope and everything they say, who's telling us that a bunch of religious nutters might be in charge. That would be bad, wouldn't it? Especially if you were a woman with reproductive rights, after all. But if these people are now no longer in charge, then how come you're making a fuss about it? I don't understand. It's all very, very confusing. Anyway, you can see the whole thing because, people are just going to vote reform and the whole lot will be swept away and everything will be fine because we'll keep all of the economics platforms in place that we've had for the last 40 years, which haven't worked. But this time around, because there are slightly fewer brown people out there, it'll work. That'll be fine. Yes. I'm not saying vested interests are at play here, but once again, I would love to know who pays Connor. Okay? Because I don't believe realistically that anybody could make a living doing what he does. Someone is paying him for this stuff. Very much the same way as they're paying Charlie Downs and indeed Rupert Lowe. Okay, it might be Rupert Lowe himself. I don't know. It would be nice to see the books. Won't, of course, yeah. But these people are trying to persuade us, and they go on GB News, they platform on a very regular basis as well as everywhere else, where they're not going to be asked, anybody's not going to ask them any questions, to tell us that young people are flocking to this kind of idea. And the evidence for it is exactly zero, other than Charlie and Connor. Yeah, and I imagine that Connor's going to fall out with Charlie quite soon, because Charlie is very much the media star, and he just isn't. But both of them, basically, because, they dress like they're in a sixth form at a public school because they haven't long left it, metaphorically or otherwise. Anyway, if you actually look at voting intentions, the classic 18 to 24, it's a load of hooey. That ain't what's happening at all. If you unpack some of the latest YouGov stuff, you discover that actually the people on the right, in terms of the reform lot, don't even have the nous to vote tactically, yeah? That huge swathe of people that will vote Labour or Lib Dem or the Greens, or indeed you now have to factor in, of course, which isn't there in the YouGov poll, the new Jeremy Corbyn lot, would be more than happy to vote, to make sure that people like Connor are shut out. which will just prove, of course, how much the imams are in charge. Because people like me, who are confounded atheist, who really believe in a democratic mandate on a kind of socialist line, are bound to line up with people that are religious nutters and don't want any of that. That's a perfectly fine thing to say, Connor, isn't it? Not that you'd be xenophobic or anything. It would be wrong of me to suggest that. Anyway, it's astounding, these people. It really is astounding. Meanwhile, as I keep saying, right, okay, yeah, reform are just the Tories Mark II. The idea is that we need to get those tax cuts through, and we'll just do it on the back of as much xenophobia as we can. Anyway, do have a lovely Friday if you can do. I hope your A-levels went well, and if they didn't, well, just be Jeremy Clarkson and make sure you have friends that are ex-prime ministers. That would be my tip for the day. If only I followed my own advice, eh? Yeah.